Hello everybody and welcome to the Warm Down podcast. Like all of my content for this month and last month, it's sponsored by the One Football app. So thank you to the One Football app for help bringing this content out to you. You can download the One Football app by checking the description below, and this week you definitely want to do it because you can check out all of the details from the Manchester United and Real Madrid Super Cup. All this is going to be filled in tomorrow as the game starts to kick off. And as usual, you've got all of the news that's going on from around the world right in the app. You need to get the notifications on and find out. It's the best news app out there as well. It's a really good, well-built app that's got so many levels to it. And obviously it's got the transfers in here as well. It's transfer season. You can find out what's going on with all the transfers. They'll give you all the sources for all the different transfers. You can see who's on the move. Nasser Chadli could be on the move here. Andros Townsend could be going to Stoke. Fernando's done to Galatasaray. Riyad Mahrez over to Roma. There's lots of deals that could be happening right now. So get over to the app, check out the transfer section, check out all the fixtures that's coming up as well. So as you can see, we got Real Madrid on Tuesday night. We've got the Premier League coming back with Arsenal and Leicester on Friday. A full programme on Sunday. You definitely want to be downloading this app. You definitely want to be checking this out. Link is in the description below. Get it downloaded. Let's have a look at today's Warm Down. It's Statman Dave. Hello everybody, this is Stephen Howson. This is this week's episode of the Warm Down. I'm delighted to be joined by your favourite mate and my favourite mate, Statman Widge. What's happening, brother?
Who?
It's Statman Dave. It's Statman Dave.
After it's taken so long for you to set this call up, and then you start with an insult, Howson. I am disgusted in your behaviour.
You expected it though, didn't you?
No. I thought you'd be different today.
Well, congratulations anyway on passing 30k subscribers. Big milestone.
Win. Yeah, it's a little one. It's on the road to glory. I think it's one of these things where, as you go through the numbers of subscribers, there's only big milestones that really mean something. So like 10k was huge, 1k was huge. I think the next one for me will be like maybe 100k if I ever get there.
About 50. Well, 50 is a fucking movement, mate.
It's weird. It's weird how numbers and that type of thing they sort of lose meaning. But I think 100k next for me is the big one to have a bit of a party on that one. So I'm looking forward to that number.
I think 100k is definitely worth having a party because I think 100k, YouTube recognises 100k by the silver play button, doesn't it? So I think 100k is definitely significant. And then you are so far away from... I mean, you're not, obviously, you're closer than you are now if you was at 100k. But if you got to the million is, I think, when you can say, do you know what? I've probably got a career for life if you get the gold play button. I think the silver play buttons... It's almost like, I think it's like a degree, almost, a silver play button. I think it's like you've put some work in. It's usually taken you a couple of years. Now's the time to go and prove you've got what it takes, I think. And that's probably what the 101,000 to 1 million represents. And I think the million really represents the people that are... I mean, there's obviously people making livings on YouTube that are under that. But I definitely think that million is the one. Although, I'm not sure me or you are ever going to get a million, mate. Let's be honest with ourselves here.
Not about you. Talk about yourself, mate, but I'm going for the mill.
I definitely know that I can get over 100,000. I definitely know that. I'm confident in that. And I've just got to work hard and get there. But a million, it's a lot of people, mate. It's a lot of people.
A million people, to be exact.
It's about a million people, yeah.
Yeah, about. A few bots in there as well, though. Probably 900,000 and then 100,000 bots. I think that'll be a decent record.
But do you know what? About the botting thing, you'd absolutely screw yourself over if you do that because of the way the algorithms and everything work, isn't there? So, you've got to be completely honest with this game and just slowly put content out there that people enjoy and then you'll get it. So, anyone who's interested in getting in the mix on YouTube, don't fuck about. The barrier to entry is super low, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah.
We both use pretty rudimentary shit, really, to get videos up. Just tried to buy a Wirecast to get this up.
To start, and it was absolutely crap. But that was a start, and it's on the way to glory, as I mentioned. So that's all you got to do, is just get a phone or get anything.
Everybody who's able to watch YouTube has got the ability to make YouTube, because that is how low the barrier to entry is at the moment.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Definitely.
So enough about YouTube chat bullshit. What's happening? You enjoyed pre-season?
Yeah, it's been good. I'm impressed by United in certain games. I think they've been a bit flat in other games. I think they look really flat when they don't play 3-5-2, and I think that's kind of the problem, that Mourinho kind of needs to move to the 3-5-2 and stick with it. Or you're going to have these games where United struggle to break teams down. I think the players that move into the wide areas don't look great there. Defensively don't look great. So I think it's a thing where the 3-5-2 makes sense for the squad at the moment, makes sense for the players. And I just want to see that more than any other system, and I think that would really work.
So I'm just moving you around here so I can see you on my screen as well as there. So there we go. That's better. I can see you on here, but whatever. No one's asked. I completely agree that I like the three-man midfield in a 4-3-3, but the forward three is disjointed, and the players that we've got don't really suit it. And I think going to a three at the back offers us a lot of flexibility and allows us to pack that midfield a little bit more. When we played against City, we played 4-2-3-1. And I think it was Carrick and Pogba. It might have been Carrick and Herrera. Whoever it was, they was getting totally rinsed by the press of City's midfield. And when they was counter-attacking, it looked like we was being absolutely run ragged, despite the fact that the final score shows that we was pretty comfortable in the game. But it was like one of those, like, it's a matter of time. Results can sometimes mask performances. Performances generally will rise to a result ultimately. Yeah. And I would rather have good performances than scrappy results in the long run. And I just think that when we have played the 3-5-2, we've just looked more assured. More assured at the back, more assured at the front, and certainly more assured in the midfield. I thought the Sampdoria game, that midfield three, even though it was... I saw a lot of criticism for Pereira online, which I didn't feel in the ground. I felt like he looked good.
Yeah, I thought he played quite well. I liked how he was moving ahead of ahead of the strikers, and that's what you got to do if you're playing a 3-5-2 and you want to attack. You've got to have a lot of movement from the two central midfielders. Now Matic is there. I think Matic was the one that really shone for me. He was absolutely fantastic and has massively upgraded the United midfield with his one game. Like Carrick in pre-season, Carrick last season, a bit too slow on the ball, a bit too slow across ground, and that's what Matic came in straight away and just started crunching people. He injured a fella against Sampdoria. I don't like when players get injured. I don't think, I'm not going to go out there and say, yeah, United players should go and injure someone else. But it's that physicality that United haven't had that Matic instantly brings. It allows Pogba, it allows Pereira to drift forward, and perfect for this system that arguably looks really good when United have got the ball. I'd like to see Mkhitaryan in central midfield against weaker sides, going with two strikers, going with Mkhitaryan in central midfield, because his ability on the ball, the game against LA Galaxy was fantastic at driving through the middle of the pitch. He was on maybe 4 occasions and he picked up the ball centrally, went past 2 or 3 men, and then the strikers split and either he got a shot on goal or played a through ball. It was perfect football to break, to counter-attack and everything. But I just think this 3-5-2, you look at Man City as well, they're playing a 3-5-2, be it, it is a 3-5-1-1. They're having Gabriel Jesus playing off Aguero, or a similar relationship, either Sane or Sterling playing off Aguero, and it looks really good. It just, for me, it suits the Premier League right now, 3-5-2. Arguably as well against the 4-3-3, City played Real Madrid. They beat Real Madrid comfortably. It's different tactically. You've got different roles for different things, but it looks like a good way. And I fully expect United to play a 3-5-2 against Real Madrid in the Super Cup.
I was just going to ask you that. Whether you thought that we didn't play it against Real Madrid because we wanted to play it against Real Madrid, if you know what I mean. So we didn't use it in pre-season because we actually wanted to use it tomorrow night. Do you think that's the case?
I think that's definitely the case. I think that United should do that, and City showed that you can, pin Real Madrid's fullbacks back. You can go man for man in central midfield, and that's how you kill them. Why Zidane was so good last season as he kept his midfield three, and that's exactly what Man United need to do. They don't need to float around with a 4-2-3-1. I think that needs to get, chucked out the book. If Mourinho wants to throw a number 10 in there, go for a 4-4-2 diamond, that again suits the players a lot more. But again, going back to Real Madrid, they suited playing that three-man midfield, Casemiro, Kroos and Modric. And when you go man for man on them, they struggled. They beat Atletico in the Champions League because they had an extra guy and said, threw Isco in, and instead of it being a 3-on-3, it was now a 4-on-3. And that's something that United could do. They could go for man. You're thinking Mkhitaryan could sit on Casemiro, Kroos and Modric will get picked up by the two central midfielders, and then you've got Matic sitting in front of the back three. That's absolutely perfect to deal with Isco if he's going to be in there, or however they set up. I think Ronaldo will play this game. Whether it is Asensio on the other side, whether it is Vasquez, whether Isco plays, it's going to have to be a big battle in midfield. And if United do play a back three, again, they've got more defenders to watch for the midfield runners. I think that's what United need to do against Real Madrid to beat them.
There was a question I was just about to ask, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. Balance. It was balance. So I felt 3-5-2 gives us a lot of balance, but also at the same time we are unbalanced in the 3-5-2 because at the moment we don't have that left-sided player. I definitely believe Luke Shaw can be that guy if he gets fit and if he's allowed to have that run of games. But is he going to get that run of games? And if not him, who do you see being the guy that's going to fulfil that role?
I think Darmian's perfect at that. Darmian played the 3-5-2.
No, not honestly attacking as well. Defensively, I agree.
Got an assist against Torino, right? Push forward, big switch from Mkhitaryan, and then whip the ball. I think that he's a good wing back. I think he's got enough quality to be a wing back at United in a 3-5-2, especially given that he's more naturally defended than Valencia on the other side. I think Valencia is going to be a fantastic outlet a bit further up the pitch. We saw again his direct dribbling for that counter attack was perfect. But I think having a more defensively minded player on the other side isn't a bad thing. You think of the Cannaccio, the great formation that Hector Herrera played. It was a lopsided 3-5-2 where you had one winger and you had one sort of more fullback. So it's kind of, you got to think of that asymmetrical look of Man United's team where in fact playing a defensive player on the side isn't the worst thing, but he still can go forward and he's still a little bit underrated going forward on that left hand side. I don't think he's that good on the right, but on the left he seems to have a little bit more confidence. He did play there for Torino, when he was in Syria. And Italy. So it's a bit weird how he's a right-footed player, but he looks better on the left-hand side going forward. It just doesn't make much sense. But again, I think he's got enough quality to play there, and I'm not too bothered about that. Signing someone like Benjamin Mendy would have been good.
A fit Luke Shaw, though, Luke Shaw pre-leg break would fit this system perfectly, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
a very attacking fullback.
It'd be absolutely, it'd be great to have Luke Shaw back. But again, it's that confidence and the injury record that's been the problem of late. And with someone like Darmian who could play the more, I think it's a good blend of having both those players and of course Daley Blind, but Daley Blind will probably play more centre half than not. But I'd like to see Tuanzebe there maybe. Tuanzebe looks so good in pre-season. He's been the one that's impressed me the most out of the youngsters. Not Pereira, not McTominay. It's been Tuanzebe. When he's on the ball, he looks fantastically confident. And it's something that you don't get in many defenders.
He's not rushed, is he? His composure is ridiculous for a player of his experience. 100%.
That was when we went to that Spurs game last season, under 23s, first time I saw him. That was it. It was just composure. So calm on the ball. And given that he's been playing left back and left centre back, even though he's right footed, again goes down to his technique, his ability, and he's just been really good. His driving runs, played a through ball against Sampdoria, I think it was. It was fantastic to play. Maybe that was the game before, but I think it was when he was playing left back. So it was the game before, the friendly before. Just great at going forward and playing passes, and something that not many defenders have. And I'd rather have Tuanzebe in the side than in fact Daley Blind. Daley Blind gives United a lot on the ball in a back three, but you can catch Daley Blind out. He's got a weakness. He's so slow on the turn. So it's something that positionally you'd have to work on. That all teams will start to target that. With Tuanzebe, you're not going to have that. He's a fantastic defender. You don't think he's got any weaknesses. Great at man-to-man jobs, great at pacing but closing things down, very, very dominant in the air, good on the ball. So he's the one that I think Mourinho should focus on and get some real game time this season.
I absolutely agree. Tuanzebe is a potential world-class footballer, world-class centre-half potential. He's absolutely fantastic. One of the things that's excited me on the pre-season, epitomised by Rashford's goal against City, epitomised as well by Mkhitaryan's goal against Sampdoria, it's the pace of our counters. We're switching the ball from defensive duty to taking a shot in moments, aren't we? And I think that we didn't have the ability to do under Moyes. We didn't do under Van Gaal because of his patient build-up. And we didn't do last season under Mourinho because Zlatan doesn't allow us to do that. I've seen Lukaku in the channel so many times this season in pre-season. And I think with the players that we've got, Mkhitaryan, Valencia, as you mentioned earlier, Marcus Rashford and Martial, obviously, as well. These are players that can get in behind the defence, aren't they? And we saw Lukaku do that so many times for Everton. Do you think that's something that he's going to bring to United? And do you think that's the Manchester United evolution now under Jose Mourinho for this coming season?
Yeah, they definitely need to be faster. The problem with Louis van Gaal is that when you have someone like that, it takes a season to forget what he's taught you in a way, or it takes longer than that for players like Wayne Rooney. He seems to have just killed his game completely. But being more counter-attacking, being more, better on the break, is something that you mentioned. Zlatan's pace. Again, you're playing Wayne Rooney, playing Juan Mata in there. That's not a lot of pace, but if you throw that out and now you're playing Lukaku, Rashford as two strikers and then a Mkhitaryan in midfield, that's pace. As well with Valencia. Valencia's going to be so key to transitioning the defence from attack, especially being a right wing back, not being a right full back, is that he can go and he knows that someone like Victor Lindelof will step out and he can sit in his position. So I think it's going to be vitally important for the break and the pace of Manchester United. Lukaku as well, as you mentioned, very underrated on the ball. I think one of Lukaku's best skills is when you get the ball to his feet and he's got his head up and he can move a defender, and operating in those channels behind defenders. It is the natural space to attack in the modern day in European football. We all know that fullbacks push on in a back four system. Space is either side of the centre backs. There's not many that that good centre-backs in world football that can defend those wide areas. The two best, probably Rafa Varane and Sergio Ramos. Obvious reasons why they won the Champions League 2 times in a row, because they can cover that position that is a tactical weakness in the modern day. And you got to think that Lukaku is very, very good in that area, whether it's on the right or the left. Usually more on the left than the right, which is good because you've got Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial on the other side to give you that great balance and freedom to attack that space that is so vulnerable in this modern day. So Lukaku, a great signing, and it will be an evolution of United, especially on the counter-attack.
I think the things that Lukaku and Zlatan do together, the sort of the hold-up play, the link play, that sort of thing, the winning aerial stuff in the box, I think they're very similar, and I would possibly put Zlatan ahead of him in terms of pure ability. But the way he has that ability to run a channel, the way he has that ability to start and finish a counter-attack, I think he adds more to United's gameplay. And I think that although we saw Zlatan be the guy that brought all of the goals for Manchester United because of the way we were set up, I think that is. I think having Lukaku in the team, he's going to replace those goals almost like for like, but I think he's going to allow others to score goals, and I think that's epitomised by Mkhitaryan's goal again against Sampdoria, by Rashford's goal against City. Both of these counter-attacks, the player who starts off the move finishes off the move because Lukaku's up there chasing, up there moving into positions.
Taking numbers
yeah,
up.
And because defenders are looking at him and going, I fucking better go with him.
Yeah,
they're leaving the ball carrier open, or they're not noticing Mkhitaryan coming in at the back post. And I do love that ability that Mkhitaryan's got to ghost into places. We saw it quite a lot. He was ghosting ahead of Zlatan when they was played together last season. It just didn't happen enough, I don't think. But in a 3-5-2 where he's the other option up front, I think you're going to see this a lot. Do you think we're going to use this formation against the bigger teams exclusively, or do you think it might eventually become our default option?
I think it's got to be the default option from day one in the Premier League, to be quite honest.
Do you think, I agree, but do you think it will be?
I don't think it will be, no. I think he'll rotate the systems, the 4-2-3-1, the 4-3-3 and 3-5-2. I think in the bigger games, the 3-5-2 makes sense because it is a back five, and that's what you'll be playing in the bigger games, is a back five, and it won't be a back six, which, again, consequently means you've got another attacker. And that's the beauty of this 3-5-2, is that instead of defending with so many numbers, instead of defending with a back four narrow and then the 2 wide players dropping in and making that back six that's been so criticised in the media, you've now got a back five, 3-man midfield, 2 guys up front. It opens up the counter-attacking so much. And that was the biggest problem with United last season with their break, is it was just one man and there was no support around that man. Zlatan was so isolated. You're thinking Liverpool away, you're thinking the games against City, the games against Tottenham, just a very isolated figure. And if you can play 2 players up top and allow United to still defend with 5, 3 guys in midfield, that's a good solid structure to allow these guys to not do any defensive work. So I think it'll really work for United in the big games. The 3-5-2 is the one to go with, and you're thinking that'll beat Chelsea's 3-4-3 in a tactical sense because you've got an overload in central midfield. Therefore, you've got that extra man in the middle to control the tempo, but you've also got those 2 forwards. Thinking against Arsenal, same thing. Their system is nowhere near as good as Chelsea's in a defensive sense. City are moving to a 3-5-2. You think of Liverpool, the way to beat Liverpool with all their forwards is to have 3 centre-halves. Instead of going man for man on Firmino, allowing Firmino to go into midfield and just tracking those runners with the back 3, or even with Firmino, you can follow him because you've got 2 centre-backs that can tuck in. So the 3-5-2 just makes sense right now for United. The 3-4-3 made sense around January, I think, or February. I made a video saying, look, United, with the squad right now they've got, would probably suit playing a 3-5-2. They played against Sunderland, a 3-4-3, played that system against Sunderland and they blew them away. But I think the 3-5-2 is an evolution of that with the Mourinho sort of central midfielders, with the attackers. You think Anthony Martial's a big one. So one-dimensional in a way when he's got the ball on the wing that he's going to try and run you, whether that's inside, whether that's outside.
We don't have traditional wide players who create. We've only got wide forwards who are only looking out for themselves, and I don't think that works. That's why I don't think that 3 across the front has been successful for us, or as successful as it could have been for us, because I just think it's the personality and the characteristics of the players that we've got don't quite suit that. But a partnership, there's so many options with a pairing that you could have.
Yeah, I
think against Chelsea last season, with the starting 11 that we had was actually shockingly bad at home, and we annihilated Chelsea by playing two two forwards, it was Lingard and Rashford, pressing from the front, putting pressure on the Chelsea defence, forcing them to play channels into the balls, forcing them to try and go long to the likes of Eden Hazard, who was well kept quiet by Ander Herrera. And I think we did an absolute number on him. And I wonder if Mourinho's been thinking about this as this season's formation since that game and the FA Cup game.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the FA Cup game, United did have that back six and it didn't work. Obviously, they were in the game. It wasn't like the previous game in the Premier League where United got torn apart and they lost, 4-0 or whatever it was.
Even in that game, they had 5 shots to our 4 and beat us 4-0. 5 shots to 4 and beat us 4-0.
We were so bad. We were so open. I've watched that game again recently because for doing the research for Nemanja Matic, and in that game Matic played very well. But again, United was so open in front of the back 4. There was no protection there. And having a 3-5-2 with a DM, you've got that protection, and that will close that space down. So I think in the games against where you're playing Bakayoko and Kante now in central midfield, you've outnumbered them by an extra man. So either Pogba can go and drift into 10, or you're leaving Matic free to play the passes he wants to play. So it's one of these things that it really opens up questions for opposition's managers with United doing that. And that 3-5-2, I think the one we played at home against Chelsea when we beat them, Jess Lingard was massively important to him. Don't let Jess Lingard's lack of goals and assists take away from the job.
That's the main criticism of Lingard, isn't it? But what he does off the ball and for the team is fantastic.
If you play in that 3-5-2 where you need to press, Lingard's the perfect defensive forward. Or if you want to throw him on the wing, he played in pre-season as a left wing back and looked very good because he does do the hard yards, and that would be a perfect position for him. So I think someone like Jess Lingard fully deserves the whatever wages he's got. I don't care about that, but he's an important squad player. Like Marouane Fellaini's emerged as an important squad player because he's a tactical weapon. It's the same thing that Jess Lingard is a tactical weapon. You need these guys in your squads if you want to win the Premier League. And having someone like Jess Lingard throwing him against Chelsea to press, or throwing him against Arsenal to press someone like Per Mertesacker or Koscielny out of the back to stop the balls into Granit Xhaka's feet, vitally important. Nea's not going to score 20 goals a season. He will have one season where he does that, I do believe, but he will make those tackles. He will track back. He will make the runs off the ball that you don't see on Sky. And I think that's why he's so vitally important for this squad.
Where do you think City are going to fit in their fucking myriad of attackers if they're going 3-5-2?
So I think if I were Guardiola, 3-5-2 makes sense defensively for them to start there, because what he does is when he plays a back 4, he likes this 3-2-5 build-up. Quite frankly, for me, is absolute rubbish. It just doesn't make any sense for your fullbacks to come inside and your fullbacks to become central midfielders. You've got central midfielders that you can play in there. So moving to a 3-5-2 for City makes a lot of sense because you've got that back 3. John Stones is protected. You've got Vincent Kompany potentially in there. Throw in someone like Otamendi that's quite good at pressurising, quite good 1v1. Opens up those fullbacks to push on. That's the big thing, whether it is Danilo, Kyle Walker and Mendy. Mendy, Walker will be the opening guy. Then that midfield 3 allows you to play Silva and De Bruyne essentially because you've got a DM behind them. Again, the 3-5-2 opens up. That's why Paul Pogba did so well at Juve, is that he could push forward. Why City's false 8s or 3-8s type of thing that they did last season with the 2 number 10s worked so well at the start is because nobody attacked them centrally. If you're playing a 3-5-2, that's gone. But in terms of the forwards, going back to that first question, it's a problem. Guardiola struggled in Bayern because he bought too many central midfielders. Guardiola is going to struggle at Manchester City because he's bought too many forwards. He's bad at transfers.
He is bad at transfers. Fuck me, I said this a lot prior to him coming in. I said, show me what he's done in terms of transfers. They've flopped massively. All of his transfers at Barcelona essentially were shite. All the big signings that Barcelona had was prior to him coming or already coming in. PK was a decent one, but fuck me. You know what I mean? Anyone could see PK was going to be a decent signing. I don't think people would have thought he was going to go and win a World Cup so soon or anything like that, but it is what it is, isn't it? I'd look at Manchester City's squad and I go, you've just mentioned it, Otamendi, Kompany and Stones on paper should be a good defensive 3, right? It's not going to be though, is it? For some reason it's not going to work because one Kompany's not going to do 50 games this season for them.
That'll be the problem.
And when he's out, they're 50% worse. Or at least defensively 50% worse. They're going to score a lot of goals. Are these going to be Kevin Keegan's 95-96 team?
It could be. I think that could be a very good point that they are, you could see Guardiola in a game that turns into a shootout just going, Sane warm up, Sterling warm up, there's your 2 wing backs. And then you're like,
well, that's what I was going to ask you is, he's bought these wing backs for 100 million. Are they going to play when he's got all these attacking options?
if for, you mentioned Vincent Kompany out. If Vincent Kompany's out, I think City are going to be better because they've got quicker fullbacks. They've got fullbacks that can go up and down. That was the problem with having Zabaleta and Clichy. I was watching a City game as well in the off-season, and they're playing a 4-4-2 diamond, and they got to the final third, and they had the 2 strikers. And then they had this quartet of midfielders passing the ball around. You're like, where the hell are the fullbacks? They were so afraid in that final third. You're not going to get that from Mendy. Mendy is probably one of the best left fullbacks in attacking sense in the world, and we know what Kyle Walker can do in the Premier League. And that pace to go up and down and offer that option is so vitally important to City's play. But again, like, what are they going to do? How are they going to keep Sterling? There was a clip today that came. There was a clip on the weekend that came out of Sterling and Guardiola, where Guardiola was going absolutely livid at him because he wouldn't open himself up. So in Guardiola's system, you try and play horizontal passes to open up space. So instead of hitting a flat ball to a player's feet and a layoff, what Guardiola wants is a diagonal pass and then you to be on the half turn. So what he was showing Sterling was to get on the half turn. And honestly, Sterling was really struggling with that thought of being on the half turn, which makes you think, is he a smart footballer? Is he worth 50 million quid? Is Gabriel Jesus going to be playing week in, week out? Is Sterling going to be sold? Potentially. That's the thing with Guardiola. When he gets to a wall with you and he finds it's a wall, he'll just freeze you out and that's it. And then you're done. And it's something that could happen with Raheem Sterling. If he doesn't book his ideas, or we don't take these instructions and this body shape to really take it to his head, then there could be problems, because we've seen what Gabriel Jesus can do. Absolutely ridiculous record in the Premier League last season. He's just scoring goals for fun, grabbing assists, and he's technically fantastic, works very hard, the perfect Guardiola player. So I expect more from him. I expect more from Sane than I do Sterling. I'd say Sterling's third choice out of those 3 guys. So again, it's going to be a big season for Sterling, but if he can't do it, he can't do it, and that's it. Gone.
And there's also the rumoured, and he's obviously been rumoured with United as well, but I just have this inkling that he's going to City, and that's Sanchez. And if Sanchez goes, like I said on one of the full-time Devil streams, Sanchez makes United favourites to win the league if we signed him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't alter the odds for City. They've got a lot of that already.
Yeah. That's the problem. That is the big City problem. I go back to the Guardiola problem. I don't think he's made bad signings. I think what Guardiola's done is he's put his weight behind signings in the same position. So he's bought like 3 players that play the same position.
He's made a shortlist for attackers and then bought the shortlist rather than picking the top guy on it.
Why do you need that? In a 3-5-2, arguably, what you'd want to do is throw Kevin De Bruyne off Sergio Aguero. That would be ridiculous. Kevin De Bruyne's strengths are playing as a 10, drifting wide. That would be perfect for them. They as a partnership, those two would score so many goals together. And it's one of these things where there's so many players now. Kevin De Bruyne is now playing deeper. You're not getting the best out of Kevin. I've seen Kevin De Bruyne play well for Manchester City. I cite the Barcelona game last season when they won 3-1, when he was played as a 10. Or you think the games under Pellegrini where he was played as a 10 and he's good. But it's this problem that Guardiola's have now because he's bought all these attackers, and you can only play a certain amount of attackers.
This is it. The people are saying City have took so many leaps forward, and I go, no. For me, there was weak defensive midfield. There was weak in central defence. There was obviously weak in the goalkeeper. They've addressed one of those 3.
I'd say fullbacks is the problem that they had the most. I'd say that's the biggest issue, and to be fair, they've addressed that with some good signings, and they've got rid of all the old Todge. But I do agree, centre-half is... I don't think centre-half's I don't think it's a cash thing. I don't think it's a transfer thing. I think it's a coaching thing.
Yeah, it's a positional. I don't think
these guys are bad players. John Stones is a wonderful footballer. Having seen him at the FA Cup against United in the semi-final, wonderful footballer. You can see that he's a very, very good footballer. But it's bringing the other assets of his game. Is he strong in the air? Is he going to beat you in a foot race? Is his timing good in his challenge? And that's the thing with John Stones. Otamendi seems to be very good on the ball, but is a loose cannon. And in a way, a back 3 helps it out. Think about Holland in the World Cup. How they had Bruno Martins Indy. They had the lad that plays for Lazio now, the other Dutch fella that I can't remember, the other obviously
De Vrij.
player. De Vrij, they had a centre-half, and they had another guy. And they were like, as defenders, very, very, especially Bruno Martins Indy.
Was it Hoffman? Very bad. Was it Kevin Hoffman?
Yeah, it might have been. But again, it's one of these things where, as a 3, they look awesome. A combination of those 2 would look terrible. So it's weird what a back 3 can do, and kind of makes sense for Guardiola. It really does.
I like a back 3. I do like a back 3. I don't think it's a hipster formation either. I think it's a valid option. I know there's a stigma attached with that back three. Less so after Chelsea winning the league with it. But since Glenn Hoddle was fucking about with it prior to the 98 World Cup, I think the Italy game, I think we played that Christmas tree 3-4-2-1 sort of formation, and people thought it was utter bonkers because Glenn Hoddle was a bit bonkers. But there's benefits to using this sort of system, especially when everyone went 4-4-2. There was a benefit for you going 3-5-2. Now everyone's gone 4-2-3-1, which is essentially 4-4-2 with a deep line 10, essentially.
Yeah.
You might as well go back to a 3-5-2. I also like the 3-4-3, but I think the 3-4-3 is not right for United because a three-man midfield gets the best out of Pogba, and a two-striker system suits our players better than a three-forward system. I think actually a 3-4-3 would probably be absolutely deadly for Pep, and he could play one fullback on as a wing back, and he could play one winger as a wing back and have a bit of a lopsided one.
So he played that against Chelsea last season when they got beat 3-1 at the Etihad, and the issue with that was that he was playing Jesus Navas on one side and Sane on the other side.
Yeah, two
defensively,
attacking.
both of them terrible. And again, it's like I don't know what you're doing. Like when you're playing a back three, you're not playing a back three, you're playing a back five.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. That's the communication you've got to get to your players, because if these guys don't drop back and don't make that back five...
That's why Lingard and Valencia it works with, because they've got that teamwork ethic in them.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's getting that message across. Arsenal looked very dodgy at the start when they were playing their back three. I still argue that it's not there at all in terms of a defensive sense. Going forward looks very good in terms of the movement, very complex movement. It looks like a diamond in midfield. Ramsey pushes ahead of Granit Xhaka, and then you've got the two wide players coming in. Looks really good in that sense, but when they come back, the two wide forwards don't make the band of four. You have this sort of hybrid of three centre halves, the two wing backs, and the two centre mids, and you've got three players that don't defend. You can't do that. You need basically, my sort of thinking in football is you have 8 players defend, 2 players attack. You can afford to do that. One of those 2 players that attack, they've got to pressurise, they've got to be the first line. But I think you can allow one player to be free. But if you're allowing Sanchez and Ozil to be free, it's just a bit too much. And you've got a problem there where defensively there's now an overload. But like United are playing, they could allow the 2 strikers to stay at the pitch. Or, if one tucks in and one does a bit of defensive work covering the DM. Again, it's opening up United on the break. And that is the problem of a back 3 system, is it's a back 5. And that's the first thing that's got to be in these defenders' head is, if I'm going up, I've got to be back. Simple as that.
Yeah, your wing backs are fullbacks are hard-working players anyway. Generally, you'll see a fullback with the most mileage covered in a game, usually. But in a wing back system, especially because they can get doubled up on. That is the weakness. If one of your wing backs is a little bit more adventurous than the other, you can double up on him with your fullback and with your let's say it's a left fullback or left wing back. The right winger, if they're playing a more traditional 4-2-3-1, the fullback and the winger can double up on that guy and just start getting at your centre half too easily. If your fullback is nowhere to be seen, if your wingback is nowhere to be seen, and I think that's one of the fragilities and one of the frailties and one of the problems that you can have with a system like a 3-5-2.
That's why it's so important to be zonal in the middle. That's why it's so important to that midfield 3 to shift over, and arguably the 2 centre mids have got a lot of work to do because they arguably have to be a right mid and they have to be a left mid as well. You look at, let's take Kieran Trippier as a good example, who's a player that will replace Kyle Walker. Kieran Trippier and Kyle Walker are a different league of fullbacks. One of them is a very, very good fullback. The other one is a pretty average fullback. In terms of his assists, he's got 5 assists in the league. I think 2 of them came last game of the season when they won 7-1. The other 3 came against Watford. That was because of the tactical mismatch. Kieran Trippier was just free to cross on 3 occasions because it was a 4-2-3-1 that Tottenham played versus a 3-5-2 that Watford played. And again, you had Son tucking in, which basically pulls the centre back and the full back together. Kieran Trippier is free to cross, and I think it's an interesting one. Kieran Trippier massively overhyped at the moment, and potentially will be a weakness of this Tottenham team that you can target. Rubbish on the spin, His stats at Burnley, he had the last season he was at Burnley, he had the worst pass accuracy in the Premier League of outfield players. That's the calibre of player he is for me. And I'm not
Tottenham fans are getting mega pumped. I think they're trying to protect themselves from watching themselves get rinsed by City for another player. But he's massively over. over-egged. And I think Tottenham are going to struggle. The move to Wembley is going to affect them on a permanent basis. It's going to affect their play. It's hard to compute why, but it does, doesn't it? Every single time. There's never been a stadium move that's been successful.
Interesting little inside snag here. I was filming at Wembley the other day, and they've slightly narrowed the pitch. Obviously, gearing to Tottenham, White Hart Lane's quite narrow. That works for the press. This is quite interesting. The thing that I'd say as well about Wembley with Tottenham, I went to the Monaco Tottenham game where Monaco beat them 2-1. Bernardo Silva scored an absolute banging goal. But in that game, the atmosphere at the first 5 minutes was really good. Like, it was pretty awesome. But then as soon as the other team started to get a bit of momentum, they were breaking them up, they were counter-attacking and whatever, the atmosphere died. And because it's such a big stadium, you can really hear it. Like, it doesn't matter if you're playing in like a sort of a smallish stadium and you can keep the atmosphere in and it'll go round. Wembley's so big that if the atmosphere stops on one side of the ground, it's really big, and that will affect the players. But also, you think Wembley, it's a slow pitch. Do you really want that for Tottenham's play? Tottenham's play is very, very quick, very short passing in that final third. That will slow them down. I don't think the transition to Wembley is going to be good for Tottenham at all. I think that's going to impact, and I think, of course, Trippier is going to be an issue.
And the fact that they've not signed anybody. If you stand still, and arguably they've not stood still, they've actually, starting 11's gone backwards. Even if you stand still, everybody else has gone 5 steps past you every single season. They might be bringing a couple of players through from the academy, but when United are buying the level of Lukaku, City are buying at the level that they're buying, and Chelsea are buying at the level they're buying, you got to go, you can't stand still. Tottenham might have peaked. With this move at Wembley and the move back to White Hart Lane once it's refurbished, those 2 years could see them drop out of the top 4.
I think they will do. You look at the transfer record in the last season. So last season they bought Sissoko, Janssen, Wanyama and Kulo and Pepe Lopez. One of those players out of 5 has been decent, and that was Victor Wanyama, and he was the second cheapest. You think in the season before, it's a similar thing where Daniel Levy, he keeps his cash and he's good at negotiating deals. Yeah, he's absolutely atrocious in the transfer. He's basically Ed Woodward level in the transfer market. Ed Woodward, don't get me wrong, he's done great business this summer, but I'm not sure last summer, I think he's been driven by Mourinho. And I think he's maybe not done the best over the last few seasons, but I think Mourinho's pushed it through this year, and that's why the transfers have been done, and it's done quite well. So going to the season before, you bought, Kieran Trippier, which is iffy, Wimmer, terrible, Ng, terrible, Alderweireld and Son, 2 players. So again, 2 out of 5. So over those 2 windows, you got 3 out of 10 transfers, 30% record where it's going well. There's a bit of a problem there. Now they've not signed anyone so far. Again, I do worry for Spurs. And you think Dele Alli goes out injured, Eriksen goes out injured, Son picks up an injury, and they've got that problem on the right hand side again, or even Harry Kane starts to be, the cracks start to open for Tottenham Hotspur and the top 4. If I was to pick any team that were going to drop out, it'd be Tottenham in that top 4.
And I would say Liverpool are quite closely followed behind them, because I think another injury been hit with Lallana. Sturridge is also injured, and they had a weak starting 11 anyway. They brought in Salah, and they seem to be dicking around on the others. So as a starting 11, I don't think they've improved so much. They only had Premier League to worry about last season. Now they've got Champions League. They're not going to be cut out for it, I don't think, especially with the way Klopp plays. The press that they've got, the gegenpress, he demands so much from his players. I think they're just going to struggle with the intensity and frequency of the games, the expectation of the Anfield crowd, especially for Europe, because they love to get all hyped up about Europe. I think they're not going to have the depth in squad and the depth in quality to carry them through this, and they're going to have to prioritise one of the competitions. So it's either going to be an embarrassment in Europe, which I can't see, because I think they're going to have to. I think they will want to do well in that to prove themselves. So I think that the league comes off, and I put them in jeopardy of dropping out the top 4 as well.
So there's only one thing that I'd say. I think Liverpool are top 4 if Coutinho stays. Liverpool aren't top 4 if Coutinho leaves. As simple as that. I think Coutinho is so crucial to Liverpool. We saw last season that he ended up being joint top scorer. Only Firmino got more assists, and he missed 2 months of the season from January, and he missed February.
Oh, he's a hell of a footballer. He's a proper footballer as well.
With Liverpool as well, they struggle to break teams down that sit deep. Coutinho unlocks that when he plays in central midfield. I'd argue that Liverpool should be gearing towards playing a 4-4-2 diamond. They've looked like they've played a 4-3-3 with Firmino dropping in, so it's a little bit diamond-esque shape. So that's okay, but the signing of Salah's a very, very good signing. Mane's a quality player. Firmino's good on his day, but without Coutinho, that isn't nowhere near as good.
Fuck me, I can't stop fucking yawning. Sorry.
If Barca come and they take Coutinho, Liverpool are going to be struggling for top 4. If they don't, Liverpool will be in the top 4.
Think it'll be that black and white?
I honestly think it'll be that black and white.
I think even with him, I think they might struggle. Defensively, they're shite.
I don't think that'll be enough. That'll be the issue though, because they're very, very good against the top 6 teams. They had one of the best records. I think it will be against these weaker sides. And Firmino's the guy to key. Not Firmino, sorry, Coutinho's the guy to key. For me, it's that simple. I think without Coutinho in that midfield, you got Jordan Henderson, you got Wijnaldum, other guys in there. Lucas is gone. Let me just quickly grab who else they've got in central midfield, because I really just think that without Coutinho, they really lack quality in central midfield. So other central midfielders, you got Grujic, James Milner, Adam Lallana, Emre Can. None of those guys are consistent in an attacking sense, as consistent as Coutinho can be on his day, and that is the problem.
We've spoken about everybody else. We might as well ask, what do you think about the champions? How do you think they're going to go? Have they improved upon what they had last season? Do you think they're improved enough? Again, another team that only had Premier League to concentrate on. A bit of a pattern forming with Leicester as well the season before, only having the league to concentrate on. Is this evidence of how tough the Premier League is when you've got other competitions on the go, do you think?
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. I think squad management is the crucial thing in European football right now. You've got to look at Zinedine Zidane, how he manages his 2 teams. It's absolutely incredible, and that's what you should take. You should have 2 starting 11s, one to play in the league, one to play in the Champions League. How I take into Football Manager, I apply that to Football Manager. When I've got Manchester United, I have an A team and a B team. My A team plays the league from let's say from the start of the season to January. When the Champions League kicks in, my A team then plays the Champions League, and the B team plays the league. But the B team will play the Champions League group stages. And I honestly think you've got to manage your squad like that with the League Cup, with the FA Cup. Playing the B team in the FA Cup, playing the B team in the League Cup. I think that's how you should be managing it and working it and resting your players to be at that top level. Because if you don't do that, you won't win 2 competitions. You'll win 1 because you'll go for 1. And I think it's vitally important. With Chelsea, your question, I think they've made some interesting signings. I think Bakayoko is a wonderful player, but will Bakayoko work with Kante? How they played last season? No. They both like to go. They both like to press. Bakayoko's going to have to change his game. He's going to have to be more defensively minded, which he can do. He's a very good footballer, but there might be that time of development. He's also injured for the start of the season. Eden Hazard's injured until September. Rudiger's come in. Rudiger won't start. He's got the raw materials to be a very good defender. He's quick, he's strong, he's powerful, very, very good on the cover. Doesn't, risk a pass. He likes to clear if he's getting pressurised. But he has that lapse of concentration that you don't want week in, week out. Anderson Christensen, that's come back from Gladbach as well, not tested in the Premier League. I feel like they've kind of made a few mistakes. They've lost Diego Costa, fantastic striker, great lead in the press. I like Morata. I think he's a wonderful signing, but it could be hit and miss with him. The reason why I think United made the correct decision in signing Lukaku over Morata for 75 million quid is that it's 75 million quid, and you want to go with someone that's played in the league before and scored that amount of goals, or you go with some exuberant talent. Morata, has only scored over 10 league goals once. The price is just not justified. If United had got Morata for, say, 40 million to 50 million, that's fine, that's okay. But the 75, the extra 25 million, the extra third, for me, doesn't make Morata much sense. And again, you're looking at what Batshuayi's done in pre-season. Batshuayi's been mint in pre-season. But will he go with a 2-man strike force, which will suit Morata's game, again, switching to a 3-5-2? There's a lot of questions for Chelsea. And, them losing Matic is huge. Matic is
Matic is one, but also Conte at the moment doesn't seem like the happiest bunny in the world, does it?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think, it's transfers. I think that's the big thing, that he's not been listened to, or they've not got who he wanted, in a way.
And it sounds like he didn't want Matic to go as well. He said,
100%.
Why did you let Matic go? And he said, you'll have to ask the club. That seems like a pissed off guy to me.
It's weird, the Chelsea, I can't remember, they've got a technical director, Michael Emiliano, I think his name is, who kind of bosses the transfers. And Mourinho's always, go back to listen to Mourinho stuff, they've always clashed with him. I think Conte's going to be clashing with him. And you look at that central midfield, Kante, Fabregas doesn't really work as a central midfield. That's what they're going to be starting playing come the first week of the season. Without Hazard's, guile and creativity, without Costa, they've lost some real strength there. I'd say Matic was a pillar of that team. I'd say Costa's a pillar of that team, and Hazard is a pillar of that team, along with the likes of Kante, the likes of Aspilicueta. I just think Chelsea, they haven't got worse, but they haven't got better. And I think that's the problem. They've not gone back, but they've not gone forward. And as a champion, again, going back to Football Manager, you don't make your team better, you don't evolve your squad, you don't make an extra signing, you go back and you don't win that league again. You always need to be on that evolution. And why has Sir Alex Ferguson lasted for so long at the top level? Because he consistently evolved his team. Yeah, he made big decisions. He got rid of David Beckham, got rid of Van Nistelrooy. But he did these things at the right time, before loads of examples, after loads of examples. He did that at the right time. Arguably, maybe he should have got rid of Wayne Rooney that summer and then moved the side on again.
Well, he tried to, definitely, didn't he? Clearly.
I'd say the earlier one, the second time it happened 2010, happened 2011, and then again at the end of his tenure, he should have probably gone 11, should have just gone, that's it. It's kind of over. We need to, if you don't want to be in part of this evolution of this next great side, see you later. We've got Javier Hernandez up front. He'll score loads of goals.
So, we've basically gone through all of them. I'm not going to go through Arsenal because I don't consider them a threat. Come at me. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I saw what effect Europa League football's had on United as well as some of the other teams, and there's no fucking way Arsenal are going to cope with it. If they had anything about them, they would go, do you know what? We've been in the Champions League 18 times, we've done fuck all apart from one season when we got to the final. Let's have an absolute go for this and really go for it from the start. Unlike United sort of half-arsed it and then sort of moved more chips onto that side of the board as the season went on. I think if Arsenal just fucking shot out the gate for it and became this season's Europa League team, they'd be back in the Champions League, no problem. If they try and balance doing alright in that with the league, they're going to get fucking found out. They're not going to be able to do it. So I'm not even going to talk about Arsenal. That's literally all I'm going to say about Arsenal, is that they're going to get found out this year.
I think with Arsenal, I don't think they should do that at all. I think it should be, with Arsenal, it needs to be a balancing act, like I mentioned before. I think that what you're going to be looking at is the squad depth. You think of the playing this back three, they've got Mustafi, Koscielny, Pallister,
sure, I fucking
Holding,
said we're not going to talk about Arsenal.
Mertesacker. I think they've got just about enough depth to do that, but they lose one of these players. One guy's going to be playing 2 times a week, and again, will Wenger be able to manage that?
And maybe. Once Alexis Sanchez leaves, you might as well fuck it off.
They got Danny Welbeck, mate.
Yeah, like I said, once fucking Sanchez leaves, they are fucked, like proper fucked.
Sort yourself out, mate. Danny Welbeck is a hero.
So we've assessed everybody. There's only one thing for it. Who's winning the league?
City or United?
I need a firmer answer than that, David.
I just don't know. I can't break both sides up. I think they'll be equally as competitive as each other.
City got to go on a 10-game streak at the start of the season and everyone get fucking super excited again.
Yeah,
I think absolutely. They fucking definitely.
And it'll be the test. It'll be the test in that middle season patch whether Guardiola can keep the players going.
It's once the Champions League group stage starts. It's once they start getting into the thick of the group stage. They can't juggle both.
Well, that's the thing. Mourinho is very, very good at juggling, so it could be that small a thing. I think it will be all based on momentum. I think the team that win the league out of those two will be the one that drops out of the Champions League earlier. Unfortunately, I think United are very, very capable in the. I think United has got a good Champions League squad to be very competitive at the latter stages. You talk Marouane Fellaini, we talk Jess Lingard. These weapons that Mourinho could
just
call
pure
on.
Tactical players. People that are just gonna. Mourinho's gonna go get out there and do that, and they're gonna go, I'm doing fucking that.
Well, so I was watching PSG today, and Thiago Motta was playing defensive midfield, and I think Thiago Motta is so past his sell-by date, it's ridiculous. When you've got someone like Verratti that you could play in front of a back four and allow him to be the number 6, it makes no sense. But if you think, right, Man United versus PSG, Verratti versus Marouane Fellaini in attacking midfield. If you kill...
Go on, sing it for me.
If you kill...
Sing it for me.
No, let me
sing it for me.
Marouane Fellaini. Right, back to the point that if you kill a defensive midfielder in a 4-3-3, kind of that breaks down the whole build-up. Marouane Fellaini would bully Verratti.
Oh yeah, he'd be meeting a people's elbow all day long.
As I said before I went on holiday, when I get back from Croatia, I want to see Marouane Fellaini be able to be partnered with Romelu Lukaku up front, and that would be a weapon in the Champions League.
You're a fucking weapon.
People. They absolutely destroy people. Think about that midfield as well. With Matic signing, it means Herrera no longer has to be a DM and can play his natural pressing role. It just makes sense. It makes so much sense for United to play a 3-5-2. But that's what, going back to what I was saying, it means United will be more competitive in the Champions League for me. And that could mean that City win the league and United get to the semi-final of the Champions League. Would you accept that, Howson, as a good season?
No.
If United came second and then they got to the semi-final of the Champions League. They won the FA Cup, they won the League Cup, and they got a late entry into the Community Shield and won that as well, so they won the treble.
So you say a good season means it's a binary thing, it's good or bad, and I don't think you can just say a good or bad season. There's acceptable and there's unacceptable, and there's good, right? I think there's varying degrees of all that lot. I would say 1999 edged towards the good, right? And I'm going to say 2014 edged towards the unacceptable. Would you agree? Okay, so last season...
I'd also put 2008 into the good category.
Last season, good or bad? Well, it was acceptable. It was acceptable. What do our minimum?
It was a very good season. I think it was a good season.
No, you're saying very good season because of what it represented in terms of the evolution and what's going to be to come. But when you look at the season itself, it's an acceptable season.
2003, good season or unacceptable season? I'm talking the season where Van Nistelrooy was there, we had a young Ronaldo, we had a young Rooney.
It was a good season. It was a good season. We won the league. You can't say a season when you win the league.
The season before when we won the League Cup but we didn't win the league. We won the league the season after.
Yeah, it was an acceptable season.
Is do you think a building block is acceptable or good? Because I'd say a building block is good.
Well, in the terms of just being a building block, yeah, it's good. It's more than acceptable, but when you look back on a season, football's about winning things, and seasons where you win things...
We won 3 trophies, the treble last season.
We won 2 fucking trophies, and both of those... One of those was definitely a B-level trophy in the League Cup. The other one, I think people was more asked about it because of what it represented in terms of getting in the Champions League rather than the actual plant pot itself.
Not being funny, though, right? The League
You're not
Cups
funny. You've
slated,
not been funny your entire life.
The League Cup gets slated. It's a trophy. You go to Wembley and you tell me you didn't have an absolute banging day and United won a trophy. You saw them win a trophy and it was a League Cup.
On the way home and
I don't care. Seeing United win the Community Shield, seeing United win the League Cup, seeing United win the Europa League, it's equal. It's all an absolute banging evening. When in the Champions League, yeah, that's different. That's different gravy. But the rest of them, it's all really, really good. It's a really good achievement to win any trophy. But the Champions League is that next level, and that's where I hope United do go. So for this to be a building block for something to come in the future, be it this season if we win the Champions League or next season, that's what I like, and I'd class that as a good season.
Well, that's up to you. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but for me, I think acceptable season because we was under par in the league, and that's the top and bottom of it. Really, the league is where you should be measuring your success in a season. Now, if United have ever won a Champions League without winning the league, I'm sure that's a pretty good season as well. But the league should be the barometer for how your season has gone. Now, if we'd have come 5th and not won the Cups, that would have been a bad season. Or 6th. and not won the Cups. But we won the Cups. So that elevates it to an acceptable season. And it's an acceptable season because we'd have got Champions League football. Now, you reckon all those club competitions are equal. But if we'd have come 6th and won a League Cup, do you think that would have been a successful season?
No, but then that's taken away from the...
Yeah, so it's the Champions League qualification, which is...
That wouldn't be a building block then, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't win the Europa League, you couldn't class that as a good building block. Because they would have...
But we was an away goal from going out in the semi-final at home. That was as fine as the margin's going to get.
Doesn't matter how doesn't matter how you win tournaments. If you just get there and you win it, then you can look back.
But, you know what I mean? You can call one a building block, or you're going to call it unacceptable based on one away goal at one match. It's madness.
Yeah. It's madness. That's football, mate.
So, United winning the league then? Yeah, no. You think City are going to win the league?
I'm not. At the moment, I'm not. Actually, you'll find that out on my channel on Monday. So you'll find that today on my channel. I've got a Man United prediction show. Go and check that out to find the answer to this big question.
I like it. I kind of agree with you in the Champions League thing. And again, there's an acceptance thing, and there's a unacceptable, acceptable, and good barometer over the space of literally going to be one match. So if we didn't get out of the group stage, unacceptable. If we got to the quarterfinals, acceptable. If we got to the semi-finals, good. And also, I think, overachievement for us this season if we got to the semi-final, because we're not one of the best 4 teams in Europe. So I think being in the semi-final, and also being in the semi-final with Jose Mourinho, You've got a fucking very good chance.
You won it.
You've got a very fucking good chance of actually going and doing something. This is a man who's won it with Porto. Now, you might look back and go, that Porto team was fucking quality. But you might look back on this United team in 5 or 6 years and go, fuck me, that was quality.
Yeah, Aaron Fellaini. What a player.
And something I meant to mention earlier on, actually, is I've had my concerns about Lindelof from a defensive point of view, which hasn't changed from fucking December. But when he was deployed in that back three, when you had the ball playing Daley Blind on the left, the ball playing Lindelof on the right, and Small in the middle, who's clearly going to be upgraded for Bailey after the Super Cup, it kind of makes a lot of sense if that's how Mourinho's going to play it, because you've got the two ball players in your defensive line that are going to help move the ball up the pitch. It was such an obvious tactical instruction from United that when we win the ball in our third, we're going to look to switch and attack, because it was so direct, it was so ruthless that it wasn't just the players have seen an opportunity and they're trying to go for it. It was turned up to the fucking max, wasn't it? That they was looking to get a ball into the channel and then one or two more balls and then a shot off. It was obvious. So I think having those ball playing defenders in there gives you that ability to do that, because sometimes you see the ball come to the likes of Fellaini, don't you? And you're like, he's not hitting it a fucking 30-yard pass here. He's not even attempting it. He's going to play it back, if anything, which is what you want him to do, because you don't want him to risk it. But when you've got the likes of Blind and Lindelof who can hit those balls from the defensive line to someone like Lukaku, Mkhitaryan, Rashford, Lingardinho, these are balls that you're going to get. It fucking excites me. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night.
What it should be, though, in my opinion, I think Lindelof should be the middle centre-back.
I thought that when I did my prediction, my 3-5-2 thing.
He still should be the middle centre-back. I also think that Tuanzebe, left centre-back, Bay, right centre-back, would be the best combination of our players. I think what you've got with those two outside centre-backs is pace to cover the flanks.
Well, I think if you go one step further, you can go when Rojo returns, Rojo on the left, Bay on the right. Might be too much fucking hot sauce for someone to deal with. But Lindelof could be that calming influence in the middle.
He's very, very good for me, covering and making the defensive runs and tracking and coming back and being patient and then stepping out and playing forward passes. So for me, I don't like him as an outside centre back, because it opens him up to mistakes that naturally, as an outside centre back, you want to be a bit more aggressive. I don't see Lindelof as an aggressive defender. He's a cover defender over a stopper. So I'd like to see him used as a cover defender in the middle. What you get with that as well, and they scored the goal that they scored against LA Galaxy United, where Lindelof played it to Pogba. Pogba played that ball to Timothy Fosu-Mensah on the outside. That was just classic Bonucci to Pogba from Juve, where there was a real good ball player that could play a forward pass into that area. And that's what you'll get with Lindelof, which you won't get with This is what we're doing.
We're becoming more efficient moving the ball from back to front. It's becoming quick. And it's not necessarily reliant on pace, it's reliant on direct play. I mean, you can have a slower player up front. Juan Mata could be the guy that finishes this stuff if the balls are played quick enough.
I think that's a big thing. It's going through the thirds a little bit quicker, but then it's allowing Paul Pogba to be in the right area. Again, having this back three base means that you don't have to drop your defensive midfielder in between your two centre-backs and you open up problems there. I just think this back three needs to be done, and it is Lindelof in the middle. And I think Lindelof is a brilliant defender. I think he's very good when you play him in his right role and his right thing. We saw the tackle he did against Real Madrid. Wasn't great, but compare that to Chris Smalling, who was awful against Sampdoria for me. It was so bad. Positionally for that goal, it just didn't react to being in a back three. If you watch it back, Lindelof is like in defensive midfield.
Yeah, his position, I think you're picking on Smalling too much there, because the positional sense of the entire defence was kind of shit, to be honest.
Well, then that has to be the centre. The middle centre back in that situation has to lead and has to go out, has to meet the ball. That didn't happen. Didn't reopen up the space for Lindelof to drop back in. Maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's something tactically that needs to be worked on. That Lindelof's got to be busting a gun, be pushing him out, and so forth. But again, that's why United need to play a back three week in, week out, because it's those little nuances that you only get from playing it. And that's the problem, that if United do flirt between a 4 and a 3, you're not going to get that fluidity in the back three, and it's going to be crucial if United do want to win the Champions League, do want to go and win the Premier League. It's too important to mess around with the back three and the back 4.
I'd be Arsenal fan TV with a back 3. And sure, let's fucking talk about it. Dave was meant to be playing, but he fucked off to Croatia.
Yeah.
And Dave was going to be playing right side centre half in a free for us. And oh my God, for 2 weeks before before we knew what date the game was actually going to be. Dave was fucking whinging about playing a back three, weren't you?
Yeah, because it's a fucking problem. You don't play a back three at that level. I mean, stupid.
You do play a back...
How many players in your team have played a back three before?
Probably none.
Exactly, that's the problem.
Did it work?
You can't... Yeah, it worked because you played in like let's say this, you're playing against players that aren't great. Let's be honest, right? The standard is okay. I'm not... I was going to play, and I am a bang average footballer. So, I know what you're saying, but again... For me, at that level,
well, I had my methodology for it. My reasons for it was because I knew that they was going to come with a team of individuals that was just going to try and skill everybody out one-on-one. And I knew that we had a distinct lack of pace in the team, especially in the back line. So I had nothing else to do apart from try and protect that back three. So that back two I thought would be stronger in a back three.
Like I told you, doing a Pep Guardiola, playing Millard at right wing back is basically playing Leroy Sané there.
Millard is
really good at going forward.
Bullshit, my brother, because Millard was quality as a fullback.
I played with Millard a lot. I know his strengths, and one of his strengths isn't coming back and being a right back. His strengths are going forward.
But he was an excellent fullback. New lease of life under me. Maybe it's you.
He would have bagged a hat trick easy.
We played fucking brilliant, and I can't wait for the next game. I don't know when that is.
The 2nd of never.
It's TBC at the moment. I know you guys keep asking us how to get involved in it and all the rest of it, and I was really pleased with how we did it, actually. We brought a lot of subscribers in. We had all the presenters and the faces that you recognise from the channel. Like I said, Dave would have been there, but he was on a festival. It wasn't because he wasn't selected or anything like that. He was in the team. Gaz would have been in the team as well. But he was working that weekend.
I swear Gaz has tweeted saying that he can't kick a football or stuff like that before.
Yeah, but he'd have been in the team because that's what it's about. When you tune in to watch Full Time Devils, these are the people that you need to see. Fuck me, Jaden and Charlie would have played if they'd have been old enough. Because that's what it's all about for me. It was all about going down and having a laugh, and we went down, we had a fucking laugh and a good old day, and I'm fucking happy with that now. Obviously, we turbocharged it a little bit because I know some players that can fucking play. And I believe one of them played this weekend for Sutton United in the conference. He didn't play for us on the day though, because he had a game for Sutton on that day.
Yeah, you had a semi-pro player, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but he didn't turn up. He couldn't turn up because he was playing for Sutton that day. But what he was gonna do was, if we'd have got to the final, he would have made the final for us. And if we'd have got to the final, we'd have beat Ball Street anyway. But if he'd have turned up, we might have beat them 10-0. And if you want to go see him, just search YouTube for YouTube videos of Jeffrey Monaco, because he ripped it up for Preston in the Championship as an 18-year-old. Apparently he's a bit of a Balotelli in training and stuff though. He's a bit of a widge. So he finds it hard to stay at a club more than a couple of weeks before everyone thinks he's a widge. But I think he'd have been fucking mint for us. He'd have been the best player that pitch has ever seen.
He would have scored 20.
Yeah, and we had another lad that has played a Champions League game for Arsenal as an 18-year-old. Do you know that 6th group game when they've won it? 3-4 years ago. Zach Anser was on the bench for Arsenal.
Just cheating. Not to do with your tactics, mate. It's just to do with your recruitment. I think your recruitment's great, but you need to work on your tactical side.
Tactics were fucking brilliant, my friend. Look at the second game, right? What's a manager's job? I'm supposed to set you up to attack and give you the information about how they're going to attack so you can prevent their attack. What did I do? I told you how it... I mean, the video don't really represent it, actually, because they played a lot of long balls up to a bit of a Peter Crouch style guy that they had, and we dealt with that. We dealt with that really well, and we created chances, and the way we created chances was exactly the way that I asked the lads to create chances, and that was balls in behind the fullback. They pressed some with the fullbacks quite high, and he was using the fullbacks to play crossfield balls up to this big lad. So there was always space behind him. So we was playing through balls in behind the fullbacks, getting onto him and putting a cross in, and Black, Zlatan and Sam just wasn't able to finish what we was putting in for him. But you know what? Again, it was a fucking great game. And we played some excellent football in there. There's one clip as well from the video where Nico twists up like 6 dudes with 9 touches of the ball. And I can't even describe to you what he does. It's just fucking excellent techers. And like I said, I can't wait to have it again. And we are probably going to hold an open trial of sorts. Possibly in Manchester somewhere. Probably in the next 5 or 6 weeks. just keep an eye on the social media if you want to get involved, because I think it's going to be a fucking good old do. We might only play 5 times a year, but I think it'd be good fun.
Sweet.
So, I don't think anyone's got the time to commit to playing every fucking week. But I think we could turn up, play the likes of Palmer's, Ball Street, Hashtag, Copper,
The lads.
All the lads. So, anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Dave thinks City are winning the league. Make sure you tweet him about
that is not what I said. Howson, I said...
Ask me, if you want the gif of me kicking him off a chair, I'll send it you.
You need to go on to my channel, Statman Dave, subscribe if you haven't already, you probably already have, because you're great people, and then watch the video.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to him and you've subscribed to me, you need to go and subscribe to him, because... have you announced what's happening in October yet?
No.
Okay, so we're not going to announce what's happening in October, but there's going to be a lot more content that's with me and Dave as well. So if you like Dave, if you like Widge, then you should subscribe to him. Yeah, that's it. Thanks to Dave. Thanks for joining us, our kid. We got it up in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, finally, like 3 hours later, you muppet.
Fucking hell. Oh, right, for those who are interested in the technology side of how these are put together, I record him separately and me separately at the moment. And this edit is taking me fucking days. So I wanted to try and do it as a live mix, and I thought I could do it through OBS. It was all over the fucking place. So I bought Wirecast, which is not cheap, and it didn't work. So I've had to do it the way I normally do it. So, it took 2 hours to get going. But anyway, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm off surfing for a week.
You later, mate, yeah?
I've got my vlog from Ireland coming out later in the week, but I'm off surfing, so that'll be it for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe to me, subscribe to Dave, and this time next week we'll have played our first Premier League game. Probably be top of the league. Maybe. Right, see you in a bit. Laters.